Despite the heavy snowfall, the easing of the weather and the forest of darkness saw two individuals trudging northward along the highway. One was dressed in wizard's robes and rode on the back of the other, a talking unicorn. "How much further is it, Rog?" asked the unicorn. "Not very far. There's a halfling settlement about 2 miles from here. Rumor has it they had their crops completely wiped out by vandals. They'll be willing to pay extra handsomely for the services of Spectaculo the Wizard." "I still don't get why you're calling yourself that," said the unicorn. "Because image is everything," said the wizard. "I mean, would you pay 2 average Joes from Prendor named Rog and Blotchet to solve your problems?" "What's wrong with the name Blotchet?" "Nothing, my friend, but it doesn't exactly scream, 'Trust me.' But Spectaculo the Wizard and Pureheart the Unicorn, that's what sells." "How much longer are we going to do this, Rog?" "Just a few more stops, buddy. Then we'll retire to Cheyenne as filthy rich men." "As long as I don't have to stay a unicorn." "Oh, come on, Blotchet. You make a great unicorn." "I'm cold and I'm naked and I'm tired. Why don't you be the unicorn for a while and I'll be the wizard?" "Because I'm the one who knows the spells." "Oh, yeah." At that moment, a snowbank exploded. Noribo the Lutin burst onto the road from his hiding place. Pointing a finger at Blotchet, he ordered, "Revert!" The unicorn was instantly transformed into a young man who stumbled backwards and fell naked into the snow, with only a saddle and bridle upon him. Noribo grabbed the wizard by his collar and hoisted him over his head. "You have about 30 minutes before your friend begins to lose his toes to frostbite," said the Lutin. "If I were you, I would start telling me what I want to know." "What? What do you want from us?" cried the human, wriggling within his robes. "Are you the ones giving food to all the area villages?" "Yes," said Rog. "Did you want to hire us?" "Not exactly. I want to hear your whole story. All of it. Right now." All right. Just put me down. You're starting to choke me." Noribo looked into the man's eyes and saw no deception. Putting Rog down, he said, "You're no wizard, are you?" "Sure I am. Well, sort of." "Explain." "Blotchet and I are from Prendor." As he said this, Rog took off his outermost robe and gave it to Blotchet. "Back there we were just a couple of guys, not really good at anything, except one thing. I was a great diver. You probably heard about how the lake was cursed. Well, who do you think was among the first to get turned into a fish? I was a koi for nearly a week. But while I was down there in the lake, I found the old wizard's workshop. There were all his magic books. The water hadn't even made them wet. After the curse wore off, I went down there and got one. I started reading it. Most of it I couldn't make heads or tails of, now could I? But I learned a few really good ones, like I figured out how to turn a man into a unicorn. Obviously. But the one I got really good at was the conjuring spell. A whiz at that one I am, no pun intended. So I got this idea. It's been a pretty bleak harvest all over these woods. So what I do is go around conjuring food for each village for a reasonable fee. Then me and Blotchet here would take our earnings and retire to Cheyenne and live the high life where money can buy you anything." Noribo scowled. "Rog, what do you think conjure means?" To make something, create it out of thin air." "That may be the modern usage. But when that book was written, it meant to teleport something." It took a moment, but when the implication of this hit, Rog's eyes went wide. "You mean all this food I've been making?" "Is stolen. The food bank at Bounty is completely empty because of you two." I don't know what to say," stammered Rog. "I don't know what to do." "I do. You're going to reverse that spell." "I don't know how." "I do. I know a thing or two about magic. I'll teach you how to do it. You'll return all the food to the Federation. You will then write a series of letters containing an apology and explaining what happened. In these letters, you will include an invitation to come to the food bank at Bounty and buy what they need. You will then teleport a letter to each village, along with a full refund.
Check,
Rog swore.
Washing check,
Blotchet expounded.
And if we don't?
Rog inquired.
You can always go back to being a koi. Perhaps you might find some liquid water in the halfling village 2 miles away, assuming your naked friend deigns to take you there.
You wouldn't dare, said Rog. Noribo pointed a finger. All right, we'll do it. Down the road trotted Booley with Kara on his shoulders. When they arrived at home, Booley nickered and shook his pretend mane. Time to change me back, he said. Horsey, morsey, gladdy, daddy, Kara incanted with a tap on Booley's head. Miming his transformation back into a lutin, Booley said, Oh, that's much better. It gets cold when all you're wearing is horsehair. This made Kara giggle wildly. The living room was softly illuminated by the glow of the lamppost outside. Taking a candle from the table, Booley lit it and took his daughter upstairs to her bedroom, where he helped her undress and tucked her in beneath warm, cushy blankets. Daddy, said Kara, is Shanar-Kallas real? I don't know, Booley replied, but Marcus is usually pretty reliable about such things. I hope he is, said the girl, because Swallowson is a really nice reindeer, and he deserves a Solstice present. He says he never got one before. Maybe that's because Fur Bluffs is hidden. I think that's why, Kara agreed. Shanar-Kallas couldn't find it because he's not a talking animal. But now he lives in Bounty, and he's sure to get found now. I'm sure he will, said Booley, who kissed his daughter good night and blew out the light. Rugi turned his latest charm over in his hand, examining it for flaws. There was, indeed, a small crack in the crystal embedded in the gold locket. This was upsetting, as it meant an entirely new crystal would have to be enchanted. The Thurge poured 2 ounces of crystal juice onto his anvil and began beating it into a solid. This was far from how crystals were normally formed, but Rugi was dreaming, and in dreams one never considers such odd processes. One merely follows them. The hammer fell in silence, for hearing was a new experience for Rugi, and his subconscious was not yet used to it. As he worked, Rugi became aware of a presence in the room. He turned to see Brang, having just entered, quite covered in snow. Evening, Brang signed. Good evening, Rugi signed back. I was wondering if my pillow was ready, signed Brang. The minute sleep pillow, signed Rugi. I have it over here. He led Brang over to a counter, where there sat a red velvet cushion. I know this is supposed to give you a full night's sleep in 1 minute, said Rugi, but I've been having trouble with it. I haven't been able to get the sleep time down past an hour. What have you stuffed it with? Asked Brang. Leaves, replied Rugi, not even noticing that he was now speaking aloud. The softest ones I could find. You should use feathers, said Brang. Feathers work better. I can do that, said Rugi, but it will be another 3 days to enchant the feathers. It's okay, said Brang. I don't really need it since I died. I just wanted to make sure I paid you for your work. Realization washed over Rugi. You died, he recalled. In the battle with the elves. That's right. And you can't be here. I must be dreaming. I am. But you're right. You are dreaming. Rugi flung his arms around his fallen comrade. We've all missed you, he declared. I've missed you too, said Brang, but I've kept myself busy with my work in Stormhaven. You might tell me, what is Stormhaven like? better than anything you have ever imagined, and there are a surprising number of non-goblins there. Onju sends his greeting, by the way." With that, the deceased Lutin turned to leave. "Don't go," Rugi begged. "I'm afraid I must. I don't live here anymore. Goodbye, Rugi, and don't forget to use those feathers." The waking world intruded into the dream as Rugi regained consciousness. Had any of that been real? As he thought about the dream, a grin broke across his face. Feathers! Of course! Up until now, he had been using crystals and medallions. Those were totally wrong for a flight charm. Feathers relate to air and to flight. Why hadn't he thought of it before? Throwing on some work clothes, Rugi went into his workshop to enchant some feathers.